Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't got them yet, you need to. I've got them right here. This 2-book volume set, and I've got these things tagged so nobody steals them out of my studio. Volumes 1 and 2, let's get biblical Q&A. I'm telling you, if you don't have them, you're wasting time, precious time. These things are so amazingly laid out. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know if you can see this from there. I'm going to see if I can hold it still long enough. Actually, from this angle, you can still see how big the print is. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit better. You may not be able to see the words, but you can see how large the print is and how clean it is. So on the back of the book, you've got the index. In the front, you've got a glossary. And so if you don't know where you're going in this book or where you need to go, if you've got a topic, you look in the front. If you've got a verse, you look in the back. And they're all in chronological order, so they're very easy to find. If you can't find it in less than 30 seconds, then we'll have to add a topic to the book, right, Rabbi? OutreachJudaism.org. You can also find them on Amazon. So there's other copies of different things at his websites available also. There's something that I don't see get brought up a whole lot is, Rabbi, you've got a 4-part DVD set that is really cool. It's just a video of you lecturing and doing questions and answers also, and probably covers some things that may not even be in this book, but it's really cool.
Yeah,
And then
people love that part. They love the Q&A. The video series was shot in Jerusalem with a huge audience, and reason why I think people like that and really enjoy that a lot is because there were a lot of Christians in the audience, and we had a wonderful time.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's as well as that, you've got the debate on DVD, I believe, with Paul Humber, as well as just there's a lot of really cool stuff. If you haven't been to the website, you need to go to the website and check it out. If you can't afford the CDs that go with these books, if you can't afford them, you need to buy them, because it's just like, my wife will tell you that she would much rather have a hard copy on hand so she can handle them, especially when it comes to books, but CDs also. She doesn't like just having to search for them, because my wife is very organized. She knows exactly where your book's at, where the CDs are at. You can pop it in and play it, take it on the road with you. It's really good, of course. And if you can't afford the CDs, you can download the stuff from the website for free to your like an MP3. Is that right, MP3? Yeah, MP3 format onto your phone and play wherever you go. I've still got all of your copies on my phone. I've got every single download on my smartphone here. I've been listening to them over and over again. Fascinating stuff. Okay, Rabbi, we've already got a question has come in. If you want, we can go ahead and scoot right on along to that. Basically, okay, here's a person sent this question. How long ago did the flood occur? Is there a date? Is there a specific date that it happened, or what's the general information on that?
That's really easy. It took place 4,128 years ago.
All right. So basically, the question, I guess you could call it a follow-up question with this. That's part of the same question is, if there are so many different accounts of the flood by different cultures that seem to predate the Torah, the Tanakh itself, then how can we say that it really happened according to the way explained in the Tanakh?
The answer to that is simple. I should only be asked questions like that all the time. The flood occurred more than 4,000 years ago. The Torah was given nearly 1,000 years later. The flood was a worldwide deluge. It affected everyone. In fact, every human being is a descendant of the 8 people who survived of the flood, right? And therefore, what we would expect and anticipate if, in fact, there was a worldwide flood is that Shem, Ham, and Yafes, the 3 children of Noah, and their descendants would pass on the events of the flood. And therefore, we would, if the flood is a historical event, what we would expect to find is precisely what we encounter. And that is, we would find records prior to the Torah, older than the Torah, I'll just say 4,000 years old as an example, where other civilizations, and the flood is recorded in virtually every civilization in the world, of a worldwide flood and a family that was rescued on a ship. That's exactly what we would expect to find. Of course, their records predate the Torah because the flood occurred before the Torah. What you would not expect to find, that means if the flood is a myth, as opponents of the Torah propose, what we'd expect to find is that only the Torah records the flood and no other culture or civilization records the flood. Well, that's exactly what we don't find. So we have, let's just give an example of something, let's just take the events of 9/11 that occurred some 15 years ago. So if there was a divine record recorded 10 years ago, we still would expect other civilizations, other peoples, the Americans, the British to write about it. So because it was an event that the world saw on television. In the case of the flood, the whole world was very directly affected by it. So therefore, I don't even understand why people consider the fact that other societies and other civilizations all record a worldwide deluge prior to the Torah, because it happened prior to the Torah. I mean, that's exactly what you would expect to find, and that's exactly what we encounter. Now, of course, you would, because we have a written Torah that's unbroken and divinely inspired, so they have other cultures and other societies have mixed into their stories a little bit of mythology that has crept into it, but the basic fundamental story is the same, and that's exactly what we would expect to encounter, and in fact, that is what we find. And my friends, just think about it. That's all. I mean, when folks present this to you and go, oh, other nations record a worldwide flood, therefore what? Yeah, of course they do, because it happened. And therefore, Chum went off, and the nations in chapter 11 of Genesis were dispersed as a result of the events in the Tower of Babel. And therefore they traveled all over the world and discussed and transmitted the flood. Did they all transmit it perfectly? No. Did you ever go to a birthday party and play the game, what is it called, telephone? Yeah, so there's some variances, of course. The Torah is the accurate one. We happen to have, I'm not just saying that because my book is better than yours. We have an unbroken chain. The Torah going back, and as it turns out, it's divinely inspired. And as it turns out, most of the world, even though they may not be crazy about the Jewish people, but they readily, freely admit that our Torah is the word of Hashem. So what we encounter, what we find, is precisely what we would expect to encounter if the flood is a historical event. Not just the flood, but that one family survived the flood on an ark with animals collected from around the world. I mean, imagine if, for a moment, let's play what if. I like playing what if. What if the Torah recorded a flood a little more than 4,000 years ago, and every single human being alive is a descendant of those who survived the flood? And imagine if no other nation, no other people, no other culture mentioned it. Then you would have a monumental problem. Of course. What we encounter is precisely what we would expect to discover if the flood was a historical event. unless you want to say that the Chinese and who knows, and the Africans and the Assyrians all have a worldwide conspiracy, and we all sat together and conspired to come up with this story. So I don't even, when I hear people, I have sit in on classes listening to really intelligent people, make this argument, and I'm going, what are you talking about? That's the pervasive retelling of this historical event. Obviously, we'd expect variances, meaning we would expect that the mythology of other cultures, other mythologies would creep its way into and would fuse itself with the flood. But the fundamental story, a worldwide deluge, and a family that survives on a ship, that's what we would expect. And then we would expect to find some variances because other cultures have all kinds of other variants. So how come we find everyone tells it? We find everyone talks about it for the same reason we find everyone talks about 9/11. Now, it could be that in Egypt, they talk about 9/11 as the Israelis, that the Mossad was behind the horrible events that occurred on that terrible Tuesday morning. Sure, of course, because the Egyptian society, I'm not planning to dive there anytime soon, are very anti-Semitic. So we would expect that the anti-Semitism, that aspect, would creep into their 9/11 story. But the 9/11 story is still the same. So it's exactly the same story. We would expect in Pakistan, because they would still talk about 9/11, they would have their own conspiracy theories that would become interlaced with their narrative. But the fundamental story of that Tuesday morning on 9/11, 2001, that planes crashed into the World Trade Centers and into the Pentagon, and one plane tragically hit an open field in Pennsylvania where some 3,000 people were murdered on that horrible day and so many others injured. Of course we expect it, but we'd also expect the variances. Why? Because the Pakistanis and the Egyptians and all our good friends in Libya would have their own spin on it, for sure.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר בתפארה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא הווה והוא יהיה